Such a good vibe.
It is a good vibe.
Bring that down a little bit. Bring that vibe down a little bit. Man, KT, if you're watching, dude, come be our producer, please. I beg you. Your video skills are off the chain. Like, they're so good. So this week, I'm going to, I straight up am being the copycat youth minister, right? he doesn't realize how good they were, but on the Winsboro Instagram, they did these super cool little short videos of biblical truths. And they're like little TikToks is what they feel like, but they're like legitimately good and funny and well edited. And he said his teens just did it like really fast and easy. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to get some together, and we're going to try to do them this week as well. I just think they're so good. I've never seen anything where I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that with my teens, and I want to know how you did it and all sorts of stuff. KT is the master of this kind of stuff. So
quick as well.
I'm using all half of my 50% of our stocks to be like, man, KT would be such a good producer for our show. Just saying.
I know. We could use a producer as well.
Oh, for sure.
Someone who can hear both sides, because I can't tell how everything is balanced. So,
right. It's on the
Jonathan...
Winsboro Church of Christ Instagram. Let me look it up real quick. I'll shout them out.
Shout them out.
They always popping up on my feed. Field. It's called Tribe Winsboro. Tribe Winsboro. And they did these, and they're so good. They're really funny, and they just used Instagram Reels, and they did them. But they're just really good.
Well, I'm always impressed with how quickly he can compose a video, put it together, and then boom, it's right up.
Right, and it legitimately looks good too. It's not just it's not like when I throw everything into Windows Movie Maker, and you're like, oh, I made a movie. It's no, this is good, and it's filmed well. So, I asked him to take meeth under hith wingeth, and teach me his ways. Because that's something that I want to be better at. I think I'm going to learn how to... Hey, good morning, Lynn. Wow, my sister's here. Honoring us today with her presence.
So, where does their native or their Indian chief logo come from?
I think...
Winsboro Student Ministry.
I'm not actually okay. Well, I can't speak for him, so I don't know. I can't really say. I know that he's really he's into that whole idea of creating a tribe in your tribe and that kind of stuff. So I think he's very much influenced by that philosophy, which is not a bad philosophy. So, but man, he's so good at it. He's so talented at it. I don't think he knows how talented he is at it. I try to tell him, and he just doesn't know.
Sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't, huh?
Well, welcome everybody. We are so glad that you're here.
We are.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. This is Behind the Beards, and here on Behind the Beards, we pull the curtain back and do our best to reveal the things that you need to know about your ministers and your ministry leaders. I'm Joshua Fowler, a preaching minister in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
A Baton
And-
Rouge.
My brother from another mother, Aaron Partlow,
It's me.
in Longview, Texas, doing some good old-fashioned youth work, or new-fashioned youth work up there.
Old fashioned. Very old fashioned.
Dude, I have so it's pretty cool. I have a friend who used to go to church here at
That
Goodwood.
is cool.
That is cool.
I wish I had friends.
He was not here for very long before he left. He's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He called me the other day and he said, "Hey, I haven't been to Baton Rouge for a long time, but I still consider myself a member at Goodwood.
Ooh.
I watch your services every Sunday. Can I be a virtual member of the church there?" I'm like,
Interesting.
I don't see why not, but it's like, you know what? Actually, you engage. I mean, he always has questions about sermons or services or who was that did this. So I know he's always there. But he's recently found some of our Behind the Beards content. So he's been listening on YouTube, and he has questions that he brings me all the time, and I'm like, man, these are really good questions, and I need to start documenting them because they will make good episodes.
Does Aaron actually have coffee?
That's right.
Or does he just drink out of a random empty cup?
Well, so I didn't even realize that
Nobody
we had
understand.
talked about Ministry Fantasy League one time. And
Oh,
so
yeah,
he went
I
on
remember.
and he said, "I'm going to send you here's some rules that you should do this with." And he had like a whole list of rules for a Minister Fantasy League. I was like, that's awesome.
Yikes.
He also sent me, we were talking about how to level up your volunteers. He said, call them the Special Task Action Force, the church staff, and you put them under a deacon, call each one a task agent, and when they level up, promote them to a point officer. Make that prestigious with a review process and a time requirement needed to achieve it. Any task that comes up, send a point officer with a handful of task agents to deal with it. I'm like,
Is this a pyramid scheme?
okay, I'm like, I was like, that's pretty clever, man. Give it some prestige. Like it's not just, hey, can you come help us out, but actually attaching some value and prestige to the things that are being done. It's like,
I
think it's pretty cool.
almost buy into that. We went to an Orange conference one time, and went with one of my dearest friends, my colleague, the shepherd that I worked under and worked with, really, Gary Souter, and I love this man. And he'll probably wouldn't even remember this, but we were at a conference, and they had like 5 youth ministers who were on this board, and they introduced themselves, and they had like these crazy titles, like, well, I am the young spiritual development plant life growth of the vine of true life minister. You know what I mean? Like just like these these crazy, and it's like, so what do you do? Well, I minister to the teenagers. So you're a youth minister, like, you know, and it's just like, it made me laugh. So like, but Gary, I remember him turning to me and says, do you want to change your title at our church? Like, is youth minister good enough? And I was like, yeah, youth minister is fine. Like, that's okay with me. And so that's what that kind of reminds me of a little bit. Is that idea?
Yeah, no, I think his point is just more of giving it some identifying the purpose and the importance of what they do.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, while also giving people an opportunity to say, hey, this is not a forever enlistment. I'm going to ask you to do something, and there is a kind of a beginning into it. So
David Blanchard does a good thing called Sherpas that he did at NCYM one time, and I've always been a big fan of it. And it's an acronym. It's an acronym, but it also is symbolic in its meaning as well. When you choose your people who are going to help out with your youth minister, you don't want to volunteer. You don't want to chaperone. You don't want these kind of, because those all have, identifiers that you identify with. But if you want a Sherpa, that's kind of what you want helping out with your youth ministry. Somebody who's experienced, somebody who is going to be there, and somebody who's going to guide you up and around this mountain that we call life and faith and everything like that. And I always thought that was really, meaningful and impactful. And so I don't call my volunteers or people who help out Sherpas, even though I think it's a great idea. But I definitely sit down and have more of a conversation with people about what they're doing and how they're helping and what I expect from them, what I would hope from them. Expect from them, that sounds a little too aggressive, but what I hope that they will achieve by doing this. So I feel really connected to you and Baton Rouge right now. I've been watching. They added all of the Swamp People episodes.
Oh yes.
On Hulu. And yesterday. And so Sam and I have finished season 1 of Swamp People and are now on to season 2. So it's been a lot of fun. And I keep telling Sam, I'm saying, hey, we're gonna get to go do this with Josh. With Uncle Josh when we get there.
The hunting part of it? We
Probably
might get
not
to
the
go
hunting
see them. I could take you on a hunt, but it has to be in October. And I did
That's his
not
birthday.
get drawn. Yep, I did not get drawn for tags this year, so I don't have any gator tags. So that's kind
Probably
of
because there's guys out there who get like 400.
there are. I'm not one of those. I just need 3. You were talking about
Sorry.
Sherpas in one of my sermons. A few weeks ago, I talked about some of the Paralympic guides, the sprinting guides, and I use Edmund Hillary as an example of how many times he tried to climb Everest and failed before he finally climbed it. And one of my guys came up afterwards and said, you used the example of the guides in the sprinting for the blind sprinters. He said, and the example I use with them is you have this guy, he had competed in the Olympics. One year he failed to qualify for the Olympics. He could have said, hey, my usefulness is up. But he didn't. He found a new way to use his talents and abilities to help someone else succeed. So he still trains. He's still a world-class sprinter because the guy that he runs with is a world-class sprinter. He's just blind. He's had to learn how to change his gait, change his stride, where everything fits with the style of another runner. And so he still runs the race. He runs the full race. He does all the training. But when he gets to the finish line, he slows down and allows this other person to cross the line before him. And then when it comes time to win the medals, he makes sure that the guy that he has been running beside gets all the glory and all of the praise and all the reward. Because he's realized that his new purpose is for someone else's success. And he said, he didn't think about this, but think about the Sherpas that went up with Edmund Hillary to climb Everest.
Right.
How many of them make the news? How many of them get the press? But, they're just there to help and to assist. It's like, man,
well, I love the idea of a Sherpa just because of the fact that like they have significantly less gear. Their body has been trained and changed to do this. And like what a transformation process that has to be, that they wear different clothes. I'm 90% sure like they don't have to use oxygen because their body has adjusted to it. And like, are we getting to that? Like the biggest part for me is like, am I getting to that place in my faith life where like I don't need oxygen, where I don't need this because my reliance on God and His transformation power on my body and who I am, or am I still like, am I still like a weak faith Christian? If Paul wrote me a letter, would he say, hey, Aaron, your faith is weak. You'll trash.
Well, episode today is a little different than others.
Has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
It does and it doesn't, right? Sometimes I need a Sherpa to remind me, hey, it's time to check in. And we talk a lot about being accountable to people. We talk a lot about making sure that things are going well and self-care. And So today I kind of just wanted to spend some time just checking in. Um, I don't know about you, but I feel a little beat up, man. I told somebody in class on Sunday. They said, "How are you doing?" I said, "I feel like Rocky in round 7. Um, my left eye's beat up, my right eye's beat up. Bleeding from the mouth. But hey, I know round 13 is coming, and that's when the magic happens and Rocky comes back to life. So
Where you get in there. Comes back to life?
in a boxing sense, yes,
Oh,
in a
okay.
boxing sense. He's on the ropes. He's out of energy. He comes back and wins. But really, life, church, all kinds of stuff, man, just has really kind of taken me through the ringer here over the last week or so. And I don't feel well. I don't feel good. I don't feel good physically. I don't feel good spiritually. I don't feel good emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I thought, man, I think it'd be a good time just to check in with each other and see, really and truly, how are you? So
It'd be interesting to do some sort of a study to see, because we talk about depression in ministry, and to see like how many youth ministers or people in ministry have that spike around this time period. Around August, around school starting, around season change, and that kind of stuff. I'd just be curious, because I kind of have felt the same way over the last week, to be honest. We're dealing with some house problems here, and that like always stresses me out. And my wife, my wife is the one who normally like stresses, and I'm usually the one who calms her down and everything. But in this scenario, I'm the one who's like kind of stressed out about it because I hate that kind of stuff. And she just reminds me of the wise words my mom has said over and over. She says that God would not have called you here to just abandon you now, and those kind of things. And it reminds me that it'll be okay. We'll get through it.
it's kind of like Israel in the desert, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
get outside of Egypt and they're like, "What'd you do? Bring us out here to die?" Like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
God would not have brought you out here to abandon you.
Don't go
He's
Old
got some
Testament on
things
me.
to teach. I know. Well,
Also, I didn't realize that I said that on the podcast, so now my mom's going to be like, "You listen to me?" So, no, I don't. Lauren does. So,
Lauren listens, and Lauren
Lawrence
reminds.
listens to you. I listen to my wife.
Yeah, it just for me that lull usually comes in the middle of the summer, because in the middle of the summer, as a preacher, as a youth minister, you're so busy through the summer, you don't have time to have the lull.
Right,
then
yeah, that's why I was like,
everybody's
that's nice. You have time for a lull.
Yeah, for me as a preacher, it comes because everybody's traveling in the summertime. The attendance is inconsistent, and you don't see the same people from week to week, and so you don't have that same kind of check-in time with people that you normally get. And then schedules are all out of whack, even on your own family, and so it's just different. There's just all kinds of things going on here. Louisiana just has, COVID has just ravaged Louisiana, and
Numbers are
that
going
brings a whole new level of decisions to make and things. And you can't ever make a decision that pleases anybody, so you get beat up from the left and beat up from the right, and people in the middle aren't happy, and you add in everything else that's going on in the world, and it's kind of crazy.
I kind of feel like there is this constant, and my wife and I talk about it quite a bit. There's always this constant of looking for agendas, right? Like I seriously, like it doesn't matter if it's a movie, it doesn't matter if it's Disney, doesn't matter if it's anything whatsoever. Marvel, well, it's Disney, but Star Wars. Oh
You're
wait,
right,
that's
you're right.
Disney.
That's Disney.
Yeah, everything is Disney. Disney and
ESPN?
Google.
Oh wait, that's Disney.
That's right. And so we are so in this place of agendas and looking for agendas, because the world has taught us and has divided us on agendas. That and this goes. I'm speaking to the fact that you just said, like, making any decision, like people, like we used to be in a place where we could make a decision, like almost like logically, or like, hey, we should just do this. Like, this is just like, we should just do this. But now, anytime we make any kind of a decision whatsoever, there's always this, okay, what's the agenda? What's behind it? What's the bigger thing? There's no bigger thing. It's kind of like, it's kind of like cornbread, right? I don't like cornbread. I don't care if you're from Mississippi, from Louisiana, from Texas, from Oklahoma, from Kansas, all these different places. I don't like cornbread.
Well, we can't have Aaron. I don't like cornbread. You can't say things like that and expect to stay still.
You take your cornbread and you take your catfish and you can go have your own party without me. But it's like there's no, like, it doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what it is. It's not going to change the fact that I just don't like cornbread. But that whole idea, this is going to drive me crazy. Hold on. Okay, here we go. But I don't know. It just seems like everything, we've been trained by the world to always see an agenda. So it doesn't matter what we do, whether it's like something small in the youth ministry, or whether it's, you know, something that you're doing as a church, or, you know, anything like that. It's just, it seems like agenda pushing, you know. I was just thinking the other day about, like, we sang a song at Pine Tree at first service, and I mean, man, I gotta tell you this. First off, Sunday's worship service at Pine Tree was amazing. Was like fantastic. Like, man, I was singing, Sam was singing, and when Sam's singing, like, I'm singing, like, it was awesome. And then at second service, like, it was equally as good. And there's like, so we have like 350 at first service, and we have like 120 at second service. And second service was rocking, and the difference was they were clapping in some of the more devotional type songs that we were singing, and I was just like, it's really curious and it's really interesting, and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know where I'm going with that, but I guess that's what I wanted to say when I came to your to that point, was like, I just feel like everything, we're so focused on agendas that sometimes we can't just make a decision or allow someone to make a decision for it being just a decision or not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I'm glad to know I'm not alone.
Must have just had really bad
cornbread. Yeah.
No, I just don't like bread made from cornmeal. Even if you add cake mix to it.
Even
I don't care. Like, I just don't like it.
I really do struggle with that. I struggle with it because it's like, I can't just make an announcement. I have to preemptively defend 4 or 5 different things that I know people are going to make, just to say, hey, let's just do what we're told. And like, why can, even in scripture, right? I mean, even when we take a blatant command from scripture about how we are to live as Christians and say, well, I know that's what it says, but it's like, no, I mean, we are word people. Like, how can the word of God not have the last say for you if you are a Christian people and you believe that God's word is binding and relevant? How can we get to this place where it just doesn't that just applies differently than just what it actually says? It's like,
Right.
Come on, man. It's like, so take that and let's leave that out there. You can take that out there, but here, when we get together, can we just be Christian people?
Right.
Who love one another and are doing our best to make sure we're getting along with one another? Because if we can't agree, and if we can't spend time together in worship and really be united in this place, how can we hope to be united when we go out into the world?
Well, and maybe agree isn't the top tier best word. What reminds me of that phrase is not necessarily do we all have to get together and agree? No. Jesus, or is it Jesus or Paul? I can't remember. But sorry, that's really bad. Probably both. The Holy Spirit using someone speaking. the passage of being at peace. If it is up to you, be at peace with all men. And you're trying to think, is that? I think it's Jesus. But it's that idea of like we don't have to together and agree, but we can come together and be at peace with each other.
Yeah, it's Paul. Romans 12:18.
That's right, Romans 12. I even have Romans 13 pulled up here.
I know.
If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Yeah, and never avenge yourself, but leave it to the wrath of God. And those kind of things. So Paul's like, so in the context here, like Paul's talking about not repaying evil for evil, but that concept of still living at peace and on you being at peace with other people. I mean, that's so. It's like those little passages. Sometimes we are so easy to just kind of like,
yeah, right.
Like those are the ones that I need on banners and
right.
hanging in my church foyer and those kind of things is, not like, hey, I love Paul's message of I can do all things through God who strengthens me, and learning to be content. But really I need the one that says, hey, if it's up to you, be at peace. Be at peace with everybody. If you have a problem with somebody, go and talk to them individually.
Right. I told you to pull up Romans 13, but I don't know if I want to get into that. The question that I've been kind of mulling over in my head in order to try to answer people from both sides is
right.
Romans 13 tells you to, hey, live at peace with the government. The government has been, ordained by God, and it is being used by God. And as long as it doesn't impede on your ability to glorify him and worship him, then you should live in accordance with him. I have some people telling me, no, that's just, a call for how we live our individual lives as Christians. And other people saying, nope, that's a call to the church.
Right.
And using it as a justification for someone standing at the door and deciding who gets to come into worship and who can't.
Right.
And I don't know, but I don't know if this is the right place for that conversation. But if you're listening and you want to send me your thoughts, I would gladly listen to them. You can send them, email me, text me, message me, put them in the comments here. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on that because it's just, I don't want to get political, and I know it has to kind of get that way because it's just the way we've skewed things and
agendas.
It's a challenge, man. It is such a challenge to walk. I told somebody also, I said, I feel like I'm standing on the ground and I have a rope that's attached to 2 hot air balloons, and those 2 hot air balloons are going in opposite directions. And both of them are calling down to me saying, hey, can you hold us together? And I feel like I'm being drawn and quartered, in the city square. And
I think the hardest part of ministry, hashtag truth talk here, the hardest part of ministry is the idea of loving everybody. I mean, and I say that in like such a nice way, like, and I truly mean that. Like, if you are really devoted to ministry, you see this in Paul's language when he writes all of these letters, and he's writing them that they're doing something wrong. I can tell that when he's writing that, like, his heart hurts for them, and he loves them. And when you're in ministry and you have people who disagree, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because you love both sides, and what you want is for them to find peace. I don't care who's right, who's wrong. I want them to find peace. I want them to reconcile. I want them to come together. And that's what I'm truly wanting, And so right now, and I think you can see this in a lot of our millennials and younger generations, is like this constant quarreling is just hard. It's hard to see your parents bicker and fight all the time. You're like, can you guys just stop and love each other? Oh, we're fine. Great. But it's causing me stress, and all sorts of things and so when you're in ministry, that's one of the things that really wears on me is when it's not necessarily like, let me say this right. I hurt when people are struggling and going through life events and other things like that. Not saying that doesn't wear on me. What wears on me the most is when you have families or people or these other groups that are feuding in such a way, and you know, and man, it tears my heart out when somebody decides, well, then I can't worship here anymore, and I'm going to go worship somewhere else, and then they church hop, you know. That breaks my heart even more, that it has to come to that kind of a decision, you know, and that's what wears on me the most. And so we're in a season again, and COVID has just taken that wedge and just amplified problems that we have had, because we've had to make decisions and other things, you know, that they step on your toes.
And here's the other thing that we kind of get to, right? And this is true in culture, and it's true in the church as well.
Yeah.
Is somehow, and I think I've been guilty of portraying this. I know I don't feel this way, but I know I've been guilty of bringing this out in some of my comments. Is we as individuals or as a collective group of people in our field do not have a monopoly on I'm tired, right? And I hear this from, look, our healthcare workers are in a tough spot.
Yeah.
There is one that lives in my house. There is one that lives in your house. There are many of them in our churches, and I know that this has been the toughest time of their lives that they are going through. Here's what I also know: it's been the toughest time of ministers' lives as well. It's also been the toughest time of our students who are trying to do school in bizarre ways. Mm-hmm. It's also been the toughest time for our educators. Mm-hmm. So there is nobody here that has a monopoly on the fact that this has been the toughest time of my life to do what I do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even a friend of mine who works for Blue Cross Blue Shield in the IT department, it has been the toughest time of his life because he is an extrovert and he has been isolated to work from his house. And he found out in the last 6 months, by the way, you're going to retire working from your house. We are not going back to working in the office. You can do your work remotely. So set you up an office in your house. And for the foreseeable future, that's where you're going to be. And so it's just hard, and it's hard for everybody. And so can we as Christians get to a place where we recognize that we are all doing something unprecedented for our lifetime? Mm-hmm. And where is the grace that we are called to live with? The grace that God has shown us, and can we just live in a way where we offer one another that grace, so that we can be more equipped to offer grace to the people of the world, that they may see the way God works? Because I tell you what, if the church can't be an example of what it is to be unified, how can we expect our communities to come together and to work for the common good in anything? Not just COVID, but in anything. This is true for all of the things that plague our society.
Right.
The church should be a place where we're going, hey, look at us. This is what it looks like when we come together under the shadow of the cross.
Right.
And let me show you how we work together as people, humans.
Well, and doesn't that play into the idea of what church should truly be? Like in that whole, I hate it, and I love it at the same time. That stupid analogy, or that picture, that there's a comic that I think my dad or someone showed me a long time ago when I was little. And it was like this guy, and he takes off his work jacket and problems, and he leaves them in the coat, and then he goes into the house, you know, and he's got a smile on his face. Like, he was wet, he was beat up, he was tired, but he took his coat off, and he walked in, and he's smiling, and he's happy because he left all those problems there. And that just always reminds me, in some extent, of like, man, health cares. They're exhausted. They're tired. You know, everybody is so exhausted, and we're so tired. We're so fed up of the lies and the mistrust and the stealing and the I'm the only one that matters mentality of the world. So the truth is this: stop bringing it into the Lord's church.
Yeah.
right? Like we're all exhausted and we're all tired, and so we have to stop bringing that into the Lord's church. Stop bringing it into leadership. Stop bringing it into the pew when you're sitting there. Stop bringing it into that attitude. There is a reason why the church is supposed to dramatically look different than the world. There's a reason why it's supposed to look unnatural and work in unnatural ways. And it's hard to do. And I'm not saying like, hey, guys, follow me because I'm perfect. I'm not. Like I am far below, and I need to learn this lesson every day. And I forget this lesson every day and need to do it. But at the same time, like we just, like if we could all get together and we could all say, okay, we're going to stop being like the world and we're going to start being more like Jesus and the way that he approached things and the way that he did stuff, because he sees the bigger picture, as old Terry Kitson used to say, see the cross. Do you see the cross? Remember the cross. Remember what Jesus did. Remember what he went through. And if we all could do that, like, man, we could wake up on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights or whenever we're doing church, and we could walk in there and be greeted and love on each other and love on other people and show them humility and grace and mercy and, whether or not they're, I mean, there's just like, it's like all this other stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if okay, I'll say it. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter if I have to wear a mask in church or if I have to wear a tie in church. It doesn't matter if I have to, because those are the two. Those are the same thing for me. It doesn't matter if we have to. It's just like, come on, like, it doesn't stop me from the reason why I'm there. The reason why I'm there is because Jesus commanded me to be there. I mean, just think about like the Jews in Israel, when the Romans are in control, and they were like, what would those people say? Like the Romans are like, hey, you can't gather Christians because we're going to burn you torches. But if you wore a mask, you could gather as a group of Christians. They would probably be like, okay, thanks. That sounds wonderful.
Right.
So anyway, we can get off of that and move on to something else. But there's so much bigger fish to fry.
And here's the pressure you feel as a church leader, right? One of them is like, is this a behavior? Number one, it's a behavior that needs to be displayed from the
top
leadership
down.
so that your people may be there. But if you look at Philippians, Paul doesn't call the church in Philippi, and he doesn't plead with the elders or the leaders of the church to do things right. He says, look, I plead with you, Euodia and Syntyche, agree with one another in the Lord.
Right.
So there is both a call to us as individual Christians. So I have an obligation as a leader of people, as a leader of God's people, to do things. But I also have an obligation just simply as a Christian to live differently.
Right.
And that's kind of the big challenge. And then, you get on and man, I see this stuff going on in Afghanistan. It's just heartbreaking.
It is.
And I see the things that people are doing to try to get out of there. And I think, man, these people are willing to hang on to the wings of a C-17 that's taken off of a runway just to get out of where they are. And I'm sitting here in my chair complaining about this.
Right. Yeah.
I need a perspective.
There are bigger things out there.
Do you does it affect what you teach when you see things like that?
I think definitely it plays into what I teach and preach. I think if you're not in some way, I don't think we need to be fully affected, but I think if something is happening in your community or something is happening worldwide, globally, and it's not affecting or doesn't enter into, like, are you truly listening to the Spirit?
Right.
when you preach or when you teach, you know. And I guess like for me, like I do youth ministry, and the kids, you know, get these little bits of truth and stuff like that. They're hit with it. They talk about it in the hallways. They have these conversations and other stuff. And so, like, I'll be a part of the conversation. Like that's how I feel it. Is that I'm gonna be a part of that conversation, and we should talk about it a little bit. We should definitely always pray about it.
What?
I know. And we should always pray without ceasing, and so I always try to make a point to add that to our prayer, and I kind of let that dictate how far we go into it. Is that I will add it to our, you know, our morning prayer, our class prayer, or whatever prayer, so that if we need to talk about it more, if that's on someone's heart, they need to talk about it more, then we will. If we won't, then hey, we prayed about it, and we'll kind of move through what we kind of had planned.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, you know, people are seeing this. If I'm seeing it, I know people are seeing it.
Right.
And so if you like don't address it, or I'm not saying it shapes what I say,
Sure.
but if
No.
I don't have some awareness of what's going on, you know, do people really believe that I'm connected with what's going on in their lives in other ways?
Well, is your sermon's relevant if it doesn't, you know, talk about, or at least is affected by world events
Yeah.
or cultural events? Or are you just preaching something that you wrote 20 years ago that's on a piece of paper that you just pulled out of a
Right.
filing cabinet
That's right.
because you're on recycle mode?
Like one of the things that really chilled me was someone shared an article from, I think it was from the Southern Baptist Convention, where they had gotten one of their missionaries that's over in Kabul. They said all of the missionaries that they have any kind of relationship with, which is like 10 or 12 different groups, said they all received letters from the Taliban, and it simply said, "We know who you are, we know what you're doing, and we're coming for you." And they received letters to that effect from the Taliban. And it's like, huh. And why is it so hard for me to get up on Sunday morning again?
Right.
I just think sometimes we get so caught up in
I'm
the
terrified.
immediacy of our issues.
I'm terrified, by the way, of the preacher joke that somebody's going to tell on a Sunday morning that says, "And wouldn't that be a badge of honor to receive?" You know, and like there's truth to that. Like, yeah, I mean, it would be great if somebody actually knew that I was a Christian, you know. But at the same time, you know, we should be making light of the fact that people are losing their lives because of this.
So quickly, too. I mean,
So quickly, so
you know,
fast.
It deteriorated so quickly that it just is like
Overnight.
man,
Legitimately, like overnight.
how quickly evil fills a void, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't know. I don't know how to wrap up. If anyone's still listening or listens later, I just want to say, hey, thanks for listening to me get some things off my chest, because I just didn't feel like I was in a really good headspace to do anything productive. And if we're gonna
why
ask
you gotta
people
be
to
in
do
your-
things like this,
Got to be in a beard space, not a head space.
beard face. Dude, I know. This is coming off. It's got to come off this week.
So
Sorry,
we're
dude.
looking for a new co-host
A new
for
co
Behind the Bee here. It's during football season.
Um,
Actually, two. No, just kidding.
So I appreciate the time to just sit here and explore some things that are on my mind and my heart. I feel like if we're going to ask people to be accountable for their mental and spiritual health, we have to kind of demonstrate that as well, and to kind of give that example of how things work, and how we need to have people who can sit and talk through some things like this with.
Yeah.
So
I think our Behind the Beards moment is I think we just need to pray. Right?
I think
So if you're listening live, if you're listening later, say this prayer as well. But Lord, I pray for those people in Afghanistan. I pray for those who are struggling and hurting right now. I pray for those who are being challenged by their beliefs in you and in their faith, and are being tortured and being murdered and being killed. And I lift them up to you that they find peace. But I also pray that it unsettles us where we're at, so that we can be shaken from this apathetic, melancholy life and being okay with how our life is. That we can be shaken so that we will teach and preach and reach out to others around us, to those who are lost and those who need your grace and your mercy and your peace. And I pray that we can follow the example of your servants and of your apostles and your disciples, and that we can humble ourselves, be at peace with others, that we can be in this world but not of it, and not allow the world to come into your church, but allow your church to be different, something of heaven, not something of earth. And I pray that you will guide us and lead us, and I pray that you'll be with all of our viewers, all those who hear this, and bless us. Open our eyes so that we can see where you are working. Open our ears so that we can hear your voice, and soften our hearts so that your words can change us from the inside out. It's your Son's name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well,
Yeah.
we don't want people to not grow weary in doing good, right?
That's right.
It's worthwhile.
It's
Close
worthwhile. I'm not going to say much because I appreciate the prayer, but I don't want to forget this blessing either. Don't grow weary in doing good, man. Do something good in the name of Christ. The world is messy.
Amen.
And if it wasn't messy, it wouldn't need Jesus. But it is messy, and it needs Jesus. And let's not forget, man, that we live for him. So do something good in his name. And until next week, I'm not Aaron, I'm Josh. And this is Aaron. And it's been Behind the Beards.
Till we're all growing a beard. A man's face should never be bare. We just want some facial hair. We're anticipating, yeah, everyone's waiting for a beard.
Oh, man. I'm pretty good with that.
I think it was a good, interesting